Hi, this is my review presentation for week 12. So in this week, we watched a movie called Treasure of Sierra Madre by John Huston, who actually won 2 Academy Awards for this movie for direction and screenwriting. So the setting of this movie is set in the mid-19th century. It's a representation of the time period, and it's also about the time period that we start reading our discourse, purposive discourses. So all the narratives that we've been reading are somewhat from this century. So there's 3 main characters. There's Curtin, Howard, and Dobbsie. Um, and to understand this movie, you kind of have some knowledge of this time period because John Huston makes very specific thematic choices for this. So we actually go over in this, we went over a scene at the marketplace. So if you analyze their expression or positions, what they're wearing, they all have a specific meaning. It's like a visual representation telling a story. So in the scene, there's a white man and Dopsy. A rich man. And there's a contrast of colors. There's a height difference. You can see their body language. Dobbsy's back is faced towards us, while the rich man's facing towards us. Um, so it's like a fictional classic. Um, he Don Houston's basically telling a story with the characters and their relationships. So the characters represent kind of a relationship between the classes that they represent, the economic sphere. So you kind of have to ask yourself, like, is there a convincing argument here? Is it a film about economics? Is there a political relationship? Is it a power fight? Um, and so we go on to look at a second scene where it's Dopsy and Howard, and there's a donkey, and they kind of blend into nature. So this idea was more towards the transcendentalism, which explains the relationship between humans in nature versus industry. And Dopsy is actually quite small compared to the landscape, and it's definitely done at a specific angle. And then we go into um, another scene with the 3 men, and there's a contrast between the Indians and the white people, and the community comes to focus onto one boy. Um, so that's another thing that we had to think about. Um, and then we went on to talk about one of our most recent discourses, which is the question of what's the function of a government in relation to a growing economy and a social sphere. So you have dehumanization, which is the slave history, you have child labor, you have slums, and you have to think about what are the responsibilities of the government um, and how can it be organized to manage this. So um, we talked about thorough, which is saying that people are subject to injustice without even thinking they are. And then we have Lincoln's End, which says that we are all responsible for ourselves. And then we eventually circle back to the film, um, which we define as a representation of all these questions. What is the government responsibility and things like that? And we basically say that with these fictional pieces that we've been reading and watching, we have to read between the lines to understand the social context of this. And that's all I have for week 12.